When they opened her coffin, they found scratch marks on the inside. It's one of the most disturbing archaeological discoveries in history. The final, desperate moments of a queen, sealed alive in her tomb. For centuries, her story was erased from the records, but the evidence refused to stay buried. Let's travel back to a time of flickering torchlight and cold stone castles. We must give our nameless queen a name, if only for our story. Let us call her Elara. She was not born to be a queen. She arrived at court as a lady-in-waiting. It was this vibrancy that caught the eye of the king. He was a man much older than her. Their wedding was a grand affair, a spectacle of wealth and power designed to awe the kingdom. But the palace was a gilded cage, and she was its most beautiful bird. But months turned into years, and the royal nursery remained empty. Elara found herself increasingly isolated, a beautiful ornament gathering dust. She had the title of queen, but she possessed no real power. Whispers follow Queen Elara like a shadow. They start in the kitchens, among the scullery maids. Soon they are being repeated by lords in the council chambers and ladies in the sewing circles. The king's younger brother, the Duke, was a man consumed by ambition. They gathered in darkened rooms, their faces lit by a single candle, their voices low as they plotted how to remove the queen from the board entirely. Elara was not naive. She felt the shift. The land is barren, they whispered. Just like the queen. The heavens are angry with the king's choice of wife. The trap was being set. The trial, if one could even call it that, was a farce. It was a performance for an audience of one, the tormented king. Elara was not present to defend herself. She was not even aware it was happening. The Duke acted as the chief prosecutor, his voice ringing with false piety and feigned concern. The forged letters were the masterstroke, written on parchment aged to look authentic. Witness after witness was brought forward, their faces hidden in the shadows. To the paranoid king, already convinced of her guilt, these letters were the final, irrefutable proof. The verdict was swift and unanimous. Guilty. The Duke proposed the sentence, his voice a chilling whisper in the dead of night. She was to be buried alive. No blood, no spectacle, no grave, just silence. The sentence was to be carried out immediately. Under the cloak of the deepest night, the Duke and two trusted guards crept along the silent corridors towards the Queen's chambers. She was woken not by a voice, but by a hand clamped firmly over her mouth. Her eyes flew open in terror. The sleeping draught was forced between her lips, its bitter taste flooding her senses. Her struggles grew weak, the room began to spin, and the faces of her assailants blurred into nightmarish shapes. She had fleeting, terrifying impressions of being carried through the castle's back passages. She was aware of being placed onto a hard, unyielding surface. Wood? No. Stone. Cold, unforgiving stone. The last thing she remembered was the Duke's face looking down at her, his eyes devoid of any pity. Then came the sound, a terrible final sound, the deep, grinding scrape of heavy stone sliding into place above her. The darkness was absolute, a thick, suffocating blanket that pressed in on her from all sides. And then she began to claw. Her fingernails scraped against the rock, searching for a crack, a seam, any sign of weakness. She would leave her mark. She would carve her story of terror and rage into the very stone that entombed her. Centuries pass. The kingdom falls. The castle crumbles into ruin. Her story is completely erased. There are no records of a Queen Elara, but stone remembers what paper forgets. Archaeologists mapping the foundations of the old castle detect an anomaly with ground-penetrating radar, a void beneath the earth where no void should be. They uncover the remains of the lost chapel, and beneath its floor they find it, the unmarked sarcophagus. They open it, expecting to find a high-ranking priest or a minor noble. Instead, they find the skeleton of a woman, and the horrifying evidence of her last moments. The scratch marks on the lid are undeniable proof of a horrifying crime. Live burial. Analysis of the skeleton reveals she was a young woman, in her late 20s. Isotope analysis shows she grew up in a different region. Traces of an extremely rare and potent sedative, a derivative of nightshade, are found in hair follicles, yet the central mystery remains. Who was she? Historians pore over the scant records of the period. They find references to the brooding king and his ambitious brother. But the queen is a phantom. Some scholars theorize she was a political bride, married and disposed of so quickly that her existence was deliberately omitted. Without a name, she remains the nameless queen, a chilling symbol of how easily power can erase a person from history. Her anonymity makes her story universal. She becomes a symbol for all those whose voices have been silenced by power. She is the unknown victim, the loose thread that, when pulled, threatens to unravel the pristine tapestry of official history. Think of the secrets still buried out there. How many other nameless victims are there? Their stories locked away in unmarked graves, or encoded in the silent architecture of old buildings. The story of the Queen in the stone coffin is a powerful invitation to listen more closely to those whispers. And so, the next time you walk through a historic palace or gaze upon the portrait of a long-dead monarch, spare a thought for Queen Ilara. Imagine the secrets hidden behind the stone walls and beneath the polished floors. Ask yourself what stories weren't recorded, what crimes were covered up, what whispers were silenced. Her fate remains one of history's most chilling conspiracies, a dark fairy tale with no happy ending. And it serves as a stark reminder that sometimes the most terrifying screams are the ones that history tried its hardest to silence.